Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch, and welcome today to a head-to-head with a difference. It's not really a head-to-head. I'm a massive fan of the Militado ML05 MilSpec homage. I bought one last year, thought it was great. The brand then sent me another couple earlier this year, and at well under $50, I declared it to be one of the biggest bargains I've ever seen. So when the brand contacted me and asked me to review their latest release, the ML14, oddly enough, another MilSpec homage, how could I resist? They're even offering a special discount on it for JOMA viewers. More on that later. So today we're going to look at the 14, then compare it to the 5, and I'll tell you which one I prefer. Let's flip the camera and get on with it. Alright, let's get on with it. I'm sure you saw the pop-up, but you know I love playing with sirens, so this video is sponsored by Militado. They sent me 3 watches. Now this pretty much covers their range. We have the black dial with white, the black dial with Fotina, and the blue dial with Fotina. Now these two have sapphire crystal. This one has K1 mineral crystal, and they all came with new packaging. A rather nice little tin here, but some slightly dubious outer packaging. That is a German plane, or at least those are German markings, whereas this watch was not used by the Germans. This is based on an IWC Mark 11 that was first issued to British soldiers, British RAF airmen from 1948 all the way up to 1984. Militado assure me that the first 1,000 units of this watch sold out almost immediately because there's nothing else quite like it on the market, especially not for the prices they're charging. Talking of prices, if you want to pick up an original IWC from the 1940s, you're looking at a lot of money. This one is coming in at around $8,500 US. Militado's not so much. They vary from just over $50 to just over $70, depending on whether you go for K1 mineral crystal or sapphire crystal. Like I said, special pricing for Just One More Watch customers, $52 or $72, knocking a whole $2 off the price. Although in the case of the mineral crystal one, that's about 4%, so hey, better than nothing at all for sure. You can also buy these on Aliexpress though, so either buy direct or from Ali, whatever's your preference. Now, I am by no means an expert in military history and by no means an expert in the history of military watches, so for me the appeal of these budget MilSpec homages lies not in the association of this watch with a particular period in history or even a particular watch from history. It's the design of that watch. You know, this thing was designed in the 1940s to be incredibly legible, incredibly practical, incredibly simple. And I can appreciate the legibility, the practicality, and the simplicity of that design today, especially when you can pick one up for just over $50. Now, these ML14s are a little bit smaller than the ML05s that I've looked at a couple of times already this year. So 36 millimeters in diameter, 9.7 mil thick, with a lug-to-lug of bang on 45. And you can see there drilled lugs for easy swaps should you choose. However, 20 mil lug width. I think that's a good decision. I think that opens this watch up, despite the smaller diameter dimension, to a larger number of people than an 18 mil lug width would have. 100 meters of water resistance and a screw down crown, your choice of either K1 mineral or sapphire crystal, 51 grams of weight, and movement, well, let's just call it a Seiko VH31. It even says so on the case back of this one, movement VH31 is pretty much the only thing it says on the case back apart from the brand logo. The company opens up the possibility on their website that you might not get a VH31, you might get a VH65, which is a date version of the VH31. Thanks in no small part, I'm sure, to watches exactly like this one, Seiko's VH31 movement is not as easy to get a hold of as it used to be, so the company has at least opened up the possibility of supplying this watch at a future date with a ghost date position version of the same movement. That's the only difference, but it seems that all 3 that I was sent do indeed have the VH31 in them. Case finish, very simple but very nice. I really do appreciate the drilled lugs, classic kind of vintage style downturned lugs on these as well. Obviously designed to be worn with a NATO strap, unsigned crown, MilSpec. Now this is a version 2 of this ML14. Apparently the domed crystal, whether it be mineral or sapphire, is more heavily domed than in previous versions, but it still manages to come in at under a centimetre of thickness. The NATO straps supplied with these watches are surprisingly decent and perfectly serviceable. You will not be reaching into your box full of NATO straps to replace it the instant you open the box. Decent stitching, it looks fairly solid and well put together. Nice matching brushed hardware, matching the case. Unbranded though, but again, you can totally get away with that because it is a MilSpec watch. Alright, dial in hands, and I will kind of rotate through macro of all 3 of the different watches. You can get an idea for which of the styles you prefer yourself. As you saw from the original IWC from the late 40s, the dial and hands are very much prescriptive. It's exactly as they were, or pretty much exactly as they were in the original. One nice touch that I didn't understand when I opened the packet, but I did understand when I compared it to that IWC Mark 11, is what the brand has done with their logo. They're aping the International Watch Company written across the top of the dial there underneath the triangle at 12, just like on the original watches. A nice little touch. Just like the original watches, the hour hand has got a flat end to it, the minute hand has got a very long syringe tip, and the syringe seconds hand does extend all the way out to the edge of the dial with a small teardrop shaped counterbalance at the back end. One of the benefits of the Seiko VH31 movement is you get 4 ticks per second, so it kind of looks like a mechanical movement even though it's a quartz movement. So in some ways it's the best of both worlds. You get pretty much 0 servicing costs because you're replacing the batteries yourselves at $1 a time. Batteries last for 3 years, and plus or minus 20 seconds per month accuracy means you're probably only setting this one once or twice a year max. And it's always ready for you when you want it to be. Personally, my pick of the 3 that they've sent me is the black and white one. I think that looks really good, nice and crisp, nice and legible. It has the look that a Mark 11 would have had when it was issued rather than 50 or 60 years later. But really, you take your pick. There's not a lot to choose between them, and there's not a bad one amongst them. What about the Lume then? Well, with a couple of different versions, one with Fotina and one without Fotina, you're obviously going to get a couple of different versions of Lume. It's the Fotina on the left, clearly the bicolored Lume, and the watch with white hands and indices on the right. Now, you would kind of expect the one on the right to do better than the one on the left, but when I turn the speed up, they both do as well or as badly as each other. For a $50 watch, it's fine. It looks okay initially, but it doesn't quite last the night. On wrist at 36, 45 and under a centimetre thick, it is definitely not a big watch, but you know what? It's not a small watch either. Like I said, the decision to go with 20mm lug width, I think is a great one. NATO's always add bulk to a watch. That's why I don't generally like them on larger watches, but on a watch like this, a bit of extra bulk for most people is definitely not a bad thing. The supplied NATO, perfectly serviceable. Definitely you could use this one until it falls apart before replacing it with something a little more salubrious. And despite that small diameter dimension, and especially in this white on black version, legibility is excellent. They really did know what they were doing when they designed this back in the 40s. But it isn't a moans and niggles section today, it's a kind of but section. But Militado also make this watch. This is the ML05 that I referenced in the beginning and put on the thumbnail today, and I think for most people this is probably going to be a better choice, unless the historical specificity means a lot to you. I appreciate these are not the same. The watch on the left is a pilot's watch, the watch on the right is a field style watch. But for most people, if that isn't a big factor for you, if you just want a kind of knockabout $50 MilSpec style watch, the watch on the right, the ML05, is probably going to suit you a bit better than the watch on the left, the ML14 V2. It's 38mm with 20mm lug width, which is probably going to suit more wrists than the smaller 36mm version does. Having said that, if you want a 36mm version, they do one of those as well, although you are down to 18mm lugs with this one. But probably the main reason why the 05 will be the better choice for most people is the price. Bunch of different color versions, various options for you with sapphire crystal, all under $50. And if you pick one up on Aliexpress during a sale, you can get it for under $40. So there's nothing really wrong with these watches at all, even at the whole $72 for the sapphire crystal version. And if you do enjoy the particular historical reference, then by all means go for it. For me though, I think I'll be sticking with my ML05 for now. So there you have it. Look, you cannot go wrong. You simply cannot go wrong with any of the pieces you saw today, particularly at the prices that Militado are charging. Which one you prefer may well be as subjective as which one I prefer, but I prefer the ML05. So why don't you check out my full review of said watch here, or another Versus featuring a Militado here. Thanks for watching this one. I'll see you over there.